Hello, Teresa here from South East London. I hope you're all keeping really well. A big hello to all the new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. And also a really big hello to all the regular subscribers. Thank you for watching and for your support. I really do appreciate that. I saw this David Hockney exhibition some time ago, and I must admit I was just a little bit, let's just say I approached it with some trepidation, because it was an exhibition of his iPad work, where he uses his iPad to paint. He uses all the skills, the brushwork, but he does it on an iPad. And then it's printed onto paper. Now, as I say, I haven't seen any of his previous exhibitions where he uses the iPad, so I was a bit sceptical. The first piece I tried not to like. I walked in to the exhibition hall and I tried not to like it. But by the time I'd finished looking at it, I was totally bowled over and in love with this way of working. And this is the most fabulous exhibition. It's called The Arrival of Spring, and he executed this in Normandy. And it's about the development and growth of spring and natural form. And honestly, it was just fabulous. I would see it again in a heartbeat. I'm going to choose a piece of work from this exhibition, and I'm going to use that as inspiration for our next piece of work. Unfortunately, Mr. Hockney didn't allow any photography at this exhibition. So I am relying on this one postcard, which I have I've enlarged, and hopefully you'll see it on the screen. But it isn't my own photograph, I have to say. It is a postcard, okay? And this piece of work is number 346, and the day it was executed was the 22nd of May 2020. On the Royal Academy website, there's a virtual tour of David Hockney's The Arrival of Spring, Normandy 2020. I'll flash up the website, website address here, and it's around about 30 minutes stroll around this exhibition. And if you like this and you like David Hockney, or you're curious, do have a look. I love David Hockney anyway. I just wish I could distinguish between David Hockney though and Alan Bennett, playwright and author, actor. And funnily enough, you never see those two in the same room. Okay. Well, on that silly note, we'll carry on. Okay, so inspiration. Right, so if you look at the circles, I'm going to exaggerate these, and you can see that basically they have a centre, a circle in the centre, and then they have many rings surrounding the circle. Now, I had a think about this, and I went back to my portfolio and I found this. I make this, push this up so you can see. This is also mounted, like so much of my work, because it was exhibition work once again, and it was mounted on the wall and all sorts of things. So it's still there. I should really tidy them up now. Now I'm just going to show you how I've treated the circles here. These are applique with a variety of stitches all the way round here, and if I can push it up, and here there's part of this you can't see. It's quite long. It's, let me see how long this is. It's 25 inches long by about 12 inches wide. So it's just a little bit too long to get underneath. There's one up here that you're missing. So there are there are 6 circles on this. And I think the inspiration for this was actually cherries. Cherries reduced to their basic geometric shape. This is twisted chain round here. Once again, it's twisted around here and around here. I just love twisted chain. And then we have running stitch, chain stitch and couching. And I think that's about it. And of course the applique that we do just as a matter of course. I love the techniques. I will stick to the techniques. So I thought, right, I'll take out the bits I like, the stitches I like, the applique, the shapes. Obviously we want the shape for the circles on the pond. And so I had another look and I found this. Now this as well this was an exercise for a class in geometric shape and texture. Here is the centre, a nice velvet, green velvet, and it's on a circle, an applied circle there, a furnishing fabric, and that is actually green, although it looks pale on the screen. So that actually went down first. So that went down first, and then the velvet, then these stitches. Now the stitches are French knots and bullion stitches. Now bullion stitches we haven't actually used on this channel. They're like elongated French knots. It's a very, very similar way to do a French knot, so no problem there. And then there's a ring here of French knots, and then we have couching. This beautiful wool has been couched, and beside that there is a very fine chain stitch, and then a twisted chain, more couching, open chain, and a running stitch around there. And just to break it all up, I decided to reflect this circle here, put a reflection there, and that is furnishing fabric as well, applied, applique to the bottom, sorry, to the bottom fabric I should say, with an open chain. Oh, I think it's a twisted chain leading into an open chain there. So I've taken bits of inspiration from this and bits from that. If I go back to the postcard, you can see the similarity between them all, especially this one and what we have here. The big circles with the rings around it, around the centre circle. They're not quite circles on this, but the basic geometric shape would be a circle like this. Okay, so that is some inspiration, but as I said, can't copy that because that's someone's work. That's David Hockney's work. I don't want to copy these because that's my work and I've already done it. So how could I make this different? Then I had a thought. I'm going to tie-dye the background. Because this is such a small project, the dye I'm going to use, I've just bought in Poundland for £2. I bought 2 packets of these. I've no idea what they're like, but apparently it is real dye for children of 6+ years, and an adult is needed to help. So I'm just trusting that it is permanent, but we'll find out anyway. But this looks just the ideal thing for this small project. Now what I've done with the second, I'll just show you what's in there. 3 pots for the three dyes in here, with quite a lot of elastic bands, and they really are very strong. Some gloves, instructions, and some rather lovely Barbie stickers. I won't be using those. I think I'll be giving those to my 3-year-old granddaughter. I'm sure she will love those on her cardigan more than I will. So with the second packet I've already made up the dye. So here we have a blue, a light blue, a dark blue, and a pinky purple. So I'm going to sit those there, and all I did with these is put the dye, the powdered dye, in these little pots, and added warm water to almost the top. So they're ready. The fabric is a piece of calico, and it measures about 20 by 15, I think. So that's my calico. I've washed it and it is damp. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to follow the instructions on this sheet. You don't have to, but I particularly like this and that. So I can't really decide which one I want. This isn't how I imagined it. I imagined that I was going to buy the Dylon dyes and do this how I've taught it in further education with the bands, and well, I've got the bands, but not doing it this way. So this is new for me as well. So you and I are now learning together, as always actually. So I'm just going to pop that there, and I will be following the instructions there. So the first thing to do, I'm going to move the little pots and find the instructions here as well. It's quite exciting because, as I said, I haven't done this before. So I'm going to roll this up. Oh, I'll make this smaller now so you can see. And I've put some paper around the edges here, just in case this runs. Now it looks as if I roll it into a strip like this, and then roll it into the middle there, both ends, and it will meet in the middle. Oh, it's going to be very small. I think I've made too much dye. Never mind, I can make something else if I have. Right, so these two will meet in the middle like that. If you can see that now, they're edge to edge, and it's like a sausage roll. And I'm just going to put the bands on here, and it says tightly. I don't want to break. Right, so there we have this. Put that in here and add the ink. Oh, it is seeping in. I do advise as well that you do wash your fabric or rinse it, because it makes it easier to fold. This was new calico, and I could never have wrapped it up as I have now because it would have been too stiff. Repeat with the different colours. Okay, here we go, all blue. I'll move that, I hope you can see. And then the last colour. Carefully take the item out and leave in an airtight plastic bag or cling film. And now that has got to be left for 6 to 8 hours. I'm also going to do another one, different design, with a piece of calico. Well, I've actually done it here, but I'm just going to show you how I did it. I've just taken some calico like this, or your fabric, and just pop a band around the end, and do this all the way around your fabric. Alright, now I'm going to pop this in here and start with the light colour and use the pink. Now this particular one, you have to let this one dry between each colour. Now these take 8 hours to dry, so I'm thinking that I might just use 2 colours on this. I'm not sure yet. There we go, the pink. Now this needs time to seep through and dry, so I can then put some more bands on it and another colour. I don't think I'm going to get any more dye from that, so I shall wrap that up in this. And this cling film isn't used in the kitchen, in case you're thinking, oh, look at her hands. She'll be wrapping her sandwiches in that later. No, I won't. That lives here. Right. Now, this, as I said, will take about 8 hours to dry as well. And then we'll see what we're going to do with it. To add more colours or just leave it as it is. So I should stick that away with the other one. And I followed all the instructions and let it dry, then took the bands out. And this is what I got. Now this was the one that was folded up. I can't remember now how it was done. Somehow like that. And these were brought in. And then it had the bands around them. So this one is that. How that one was done. I think there's a bright side to it. That might be the brighter side. And as you can see, the bands here, the pink and the blue making a nice lilac. So that one's very nice. But this was the one I really liked. I should make this a bit bigger. And this one was the one with all the bands, lots of bands that went round here. Lots of bands all over. So I let that dry and then I opened it up and this is what I had, and I just think this is really gorgeous. This has got the rings on here. You see the rings? Here we go, all the rings. And I thought, that's it. I know exactly what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to use this, another piece of inspiration, to work this. So we're getting there very slowly, and I love the colours of this. Totally different from the green. So that's another area that we're broken away from. Completely different. Now this is what I've decided to use. But I'm just going to show you another one very quickly. A natural one that was done with onion skins, and I did this only about an hour or so ago. It's dry, ironed, and look at that. And this is actually, I think, more lovely than this one. But I already know what I'm going to do with this one, so I've earmarked this already, and it was just a bit of an experiment. I saw the onions were losing their skins, and I thought, I know what I'll do. So I am really pleased with that, and I think that one is really gorgeous. So I should put that away, and you will see that again at some point. I have an idea at how to do this. Now I'm just thinking aloud. I might make a feature of these, as I have done in the others, a feature here. Now I've also found some wool and these threads, so all the same colour, and for added texture I'll be adding some wool. Once again, I should keep the colours true to these. At some point I might possibly introduce another colour, because these are all very samey, so at some point it might need a little bit of something else. Might give it a touch of green as a nod to David Hockney's piece of work, but I might not. So there, once again, there's a lot of mights and maybes. That's how far I am now. So I need to just think now about the background. At this point, I haven't got any idea about making it up. I'm not sure it'd be made into anything. But once again, we don't know, do we? At this stage, we really don't know which way it's going. So hang fire on that. I've backed this with a little bit of wadding, and it's just one piece of lightweight wadding, not double, it's a single piece, and then I've sandwiched this between the tie-dye and just a little bit of cotton lawn that I had in my rag bag. Don't go to any trouble of buying the calico or the wadding. Just see what you have around the house and what you can use. So the next thing I'm going to do is to tack this all the way round the sides, okay, and then it'll be ready for sewing. The tacking's been done all the way around the 4 edges and also along the centres, right the way across here and here, just to stop it from dancing while I sew. If I hold it that way there, you can see that's the centre, so it's all been held down. Now I do intend to use these because they complement the background nicely, but after hanging it on the wall for a couple of hours and having a look at it as I pass by, I decided to start with blue. Now I know this isn't pink or red or peach. I think the blue will bring out some of these colours. So what I intend to do at the moment is go around, running stitch all the way around all the shapes that you can see. Now I'm going to start in blue, but I'll probably incorporate some of the other colours that you've just seen, but just for the time being I'm curious to see what effect the dark blue will have. Hopefully it will bring out some of these paler blues here. Once again I'm using, I think this is a Sashiko needle, which is lovely because you can load on lots and lots of stitches or pieces of fabric. Right, so it doesn't matter if some are long and some are small. That's part of our creativity and our design elements, or our art elements. They're all the same. Right, so there we go. Now there is a variety there of stitch lengths, so let's just make that a little bit bigger. There we are, and I'm just going to follow this round to get the shape. It's going to be interesting to see how it looks. Just finishing off now, that's the last piece. Just go to the back, just a few little over sewing stitches just to make sure it's nice and secure, and then I'll cut that thread off. And there we go, that's done, that's finished. Right, let's have a look and see. I'm going to make this a bit smaller so you can see it all, hopefully. Right, lovely, and there we go, it's all in. We've got that in, this at the top, that, and what have we got down here? Yes, it just fits in there, lovely. So that is the first of our sewing. Now I need some time just to look at it, to consider what I'm going to do next. Now if I refer back to this, right, yeah, I'll hold that up. Right, so I'm referring back to that, and you can see the centre bits of the circles surrounded by other circles. Yeah, and I do like, I'm looking at the photo, the postcard now, and I do like these bits here linking the circles, because, and this bit here, because there's pieces like this in this photograph, round here, round there. there's other shapes around here, just like these long shapes. Now, what a coincidence is that? Who'd have known that? So, I'm going to use that for my inspiration. I want to keep these, the centres, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, some of these obviously will be eaten up in the seam allowance if I decide to make it up. I might make these solid. I could make these solid and then do the rings with the different yarns. So I've sorted out some fabric for the centre of the decreasing circles, like on here, and I found this, and this is really lovely. It's got a sheen to it, and it's a bluey green sheen. I'm not sure you can quite see that on the screen, but that is really lovely. And this, I think we've used this before, that has a little bit of a shine on there, a bit of a sparkle. I've cut out some shapes to fit in the centre of the circles, if you just like that. They're not exact, they don't have to fit or be the exact shape, but they're near enough. So there, that's as far as I've got there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew them down, and I'll start with this one. I'm going to use blanket stitch. Now we've done blanket stitch before, but just for anybody who's new, I'll just run through this very quickly. Where is the camera? Right, so knot your fabric, knot your thread. Now I'm using this I'm using the great big needle here, and the Hessian and wool, just so it picks up on the camera, just so you can see it. If I was to do the tiny stitch that I'm going to use, you wouldn't see it. So in from the back, and then you're going to hold this bit down with your left hand or your right hand. We're going to go this way, we're going to work to the right, so hold that down, and then you're going to take your needle where you want your stitch to be, and then you're going to bring it here. Now it's up to you to decide the length and the width of your stitch. That doesn't look quite straight. Okay, so that is your first stitch. Now I'm doing this on my side, so it's a bit awkward to get these straight. Okay, so you just repeat that, hold that thread down there, then you're going to come up here parallel to that if you want them all looking the same, then parallel to that, and you'll do exactly the same. Still hold this down, and then gradually pull it slowly, and that is your blanket stitch. Okay, now when you're doing this as an art, which we do, you can vary them, you can have them wherever you want and as long as you want. And this is really nice to fill in spaces, shapes, because you can just follow the contour of your space or your shape and produce a really nice effect. You can use it as a fill-in stitch. And all I'm going to do now is to do exactly what I've just shown you. Now as you can see on the screen, I haven't tacked. There's no need to tack these tiny little shapes. So where shall I start? I'll start here. So I'm using three strands of thread in a needle with a nice sharp point. I've got a knot in the bottom, and now I'm just going to do what I've shown you on the example. So in from the back, going to hold that down, and then I'm going to take this as long as I want, wherever I want it finishing, and pop it in there. And that's the first stitch there, and I'm going to do this all the way around. So all the little circles now have been sewn down, and they've all been edged with blanket stitch, and I've used 3 colours of thread. I've used this really lovely dark pink, a deep purple and a light pink here. I think the fabric that's worked best of all is this green. It's absolutely lovely. I think I'm a bit sorry that I haven't used the green in all the circles, but the deep blue is just as nice. It shimmers, but this is really special. Now I've decided that to make the decreasing circles here, I'm going to do these one by one. I'm not going to do them all at the same time so they end up looking very similar. I'd like them to look different. So I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to take the circles out around here, all the way around, and possibly fill in this space here. Now this is what I'm thinking at the moment, but as you know, that's likely to change. Now the first stitch I'm going to use is twisted chain stitch. Now we did this over to the left, and then with the point through to the right, still keep your thread under the thumb and gently pull it. There you go, and that is all there is to twisted chain stitch, and it really is a lovely stitch to do. I'll do a few more. So that's the first circle almost finished. It isn't completely finished. I'm not going to do this bit until I've completed the other circles, because one will have a knock-on effect on the others, I imagine. So this is as far as I'm going with this circle. My next step is to then come around the edges of the neighbouring circles, but I'll show you that in a minute. Just for a second, I'm going to blow this up, or enlarge it I should say, and just show you the stitches I used. Now we went through these before. I did the twisted chain stitch here, round there, and then a blanket stitch, some more running stitch, another twisted chain stitch around here. Now this one here, to create a bit of texture, I've used 12 strands. So that sounds quite a lot, but it's only the original 6 strands folded in half in the needle. So just put your 6 strands in and then halve it and knot the ends together. It's still not as thick as I would have liked, so I'm thinking of introducing some wool at some point, just to provide, probably not that colour, but just to provide a bit more texture. But I'm not going to do it around the circles yet, because I'm not sure what I'm doing here, so I might bring some wool in this space, but we'll see anyway. But as you can see by looking at the screen, I've also got a row of chain stitch here, just regular chain stitch. Now it is in the book that some of us made. It's in both of them, both of these stitchery books. They're actually journals, but this one is, alright, there we go. This is, oh, I think I'll have to make that just a little bit smaller so you can see what I'm talking about. Goodness. So this is the chain, and it's just showing Lazy Daisy. There's single chains here, the chain stitch there. Once again, single chain stitch into a Lazy Daisy stitch, and here is the chain stitch. So we're going to I'm just going to demonstrate this one here. For those of you who are a bit rusty on chain stitch or don't know it, it's a very, very easy stitch to do. Minimal effort for a lot of reward, I always think, with this stitch. So knot your thread. Now once again, this is all exaggerated so you can see it on the screen. So knot the end of your thread, bring the needle from the back to the front, and I'm going to do a big stitch so you see it. Hold it down again with your thumb. Now you'll go back into the same hole or at the side, like that. You decide how long you'll make your stitch. I'm going to have quite a long stitch so you can see this. Still hold the thread down with your thumb, and then you're going to gradually let go, and there is your first chain. And this is all you'll do, and you go again in the same hole or close, very close to it. Decide on the length of your chain, and you'll do that again, and that's your chain. And that's all there is to chain stitch. So I'm now going to move on to these side circles here, and I'm going to start tracing with my needle and thread, following these lines here until they meet the circle here. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to follow the edge of this circle all the way around here until it meets these edges here. I mean, this one's going to meet it a lot sooner than this one because that's a very narrow space. So all the way around there, and then round here, and then I should end up with some nice spaces, possibly round about here and here. Stitches. I've introduced some stitches that I don't think we've done before, mostly couching. I've got quite a lot of couching on here because I actually enjoy doing that. I've also got a whipped running stitch and a Pekingese stitch. So what I'll do is I'll just go through what I've done, and then I'll demonstrate the new stitches. So the first stitch I did, and I concentrated on the center and worked out. So first stitch I did was twisted chain here, and then I went to blanket stitch around here. Now if I make this a little bit bigger, you can see that it's not the blanket stitch that you're used to seeing, like this one. This blanket stitch has been worked like this, but then I've woven a thread underneath all the legs. I've just run a thread all the way underneath, so to actually couch down the thread here. And if you look on the screen carefully, you can just about make out it's the purple thread here underneath the blanket stitch. And then I carried on with running stitch, twisted chain again, and original chain, ordinary chain, and couching. Now I'm going to move that up so you can see it. Right, which way am I going? There we go. Here we go. So this is couching again, and all couching is, it's laying a thread on the surface of fabric and then holding it down with another stitch. Now the stitch I've chosen here is chain. Single chain stitches, or daisy stitches if you like, around here. I varied the closeness of them, so I've got some close together and some spaced, because don't forget we are working with contrasts to produce our texture. That is why we have silk and wool, and I have 12 strands here of silk against 2 strands here of silk, and it's that produces the texture, the contrast, the large stitches against the small stitches. We've got small stitches there against large stitches over here, so there's a contrast going on all the time. Now over here I need to move this again. So this side is couching with a regular oversew stitch. This is the usual way to do a couch stitch, with just a tiny little oversew stitch going across it. Once again here I've used a blanket stitch and I've woven through 2 strands, which is actually 12 individual strands of silk along there, and couching again and back to our running stitch. So there's no big shakes here really. The only stitch I think that is really new is this one. Apart from the couching, this one, and this is the Pekingese or Pekingese stitch, depending on how you pronounce it, and this is a really lovely stitch to do. Now I think that's about all. I'm not sure at this stage whether I'll be introducing any more stitches apart from French knots, and maybe an Algerian eye or two, so I think I better retract I'll retract that statement. But I will do now is a demonstration on our piece of fabric here, and I should start with the couching. Now I'll make this smaller, I think, just right. So couching, as I said, is just laying one thread on the top and then going over to secure it. So a nice knot in the back. Now I need to make this a big knot because it will be easy to pull through this open weave here. So right, if I can just move that up a bit, couching, there we go, and then you take it as long as you want. Say you want it just that long. I need to make that a little bit smaller. Oh, that's better. No, that's better. Now if you have a line like this, you're okay, you can just pop it in there. But if you have a shape like I have round here, then roughly estimate it. Just go round your shape like so and just estimate how much you'll need, and then you'll go to the end of that shape. You'll start, say, at the beginning of a circle, and then you'll take your thread all the way round, and then you'll go back in where you came out. But I'm doing this on the length like that. Right, so now we'll go in here. Now at this point I don't cut the thread, I just knot it. So I'll make a knot so I don't pull it through. Right, now that won't pull through. And then with my contrasting thread, I'm just going to knot in the end and go from one side to the other. Now this is just the regular oversew, so I'm not going to do too many of those. You can see one side to the other. Now it's up to you how you space yours. You might want them close together, you might want them far apart, but don't forget our contrast, which are 2 opposites, so close together and then far apart. So that is all there is to basic couching. Right, I need to make that just a bit bigger again. Now the chain is quite simple as well. It's just your regular chain stitch here, but you're going to do them singularly. So just like you do chain, hold that down there, back into that hole as long as you want your chain, and there you go, you've held it down, back to the bottom, and that is your chain. Okay, once again it's up to you how you space them and how long you have them. You might want them really long, or you might want them short, or you might want a mixture. If you have a mixture, vary the lengths, get the contrast between long and short. You don't want any mediocre in betweenies, you need either long or short. So that's the couching with chain stitch. What else did we have here? Right, onto the whipped running stitch. I'm just going to move down here. Whipped running stitch is just your regular running stitch along there. Okay, as long as you want, and then you can change your thread if you want a different colour, and then you just come up slightly underneath and you're just going to whip it in, so it's just an in and over stitch. So that's the whipped running stitch. Now what else did we have on that list? So for Pekingese stitch, you want just an ordinary back stitch. So I'm making this big so you can see it on the screen. So we just have a couple of back stitches. So there, in there. I imagine that you're all used to this back stitch. There we go. So we call that our back stitch because that's what it is. And just finish that off here. I'm just going to knot that over so it doesn't come undone. Right, so that's done. Now you could use the same colour, but this is nice to work in a different colour. So you're going to bring up the contrasting thread to this side, slightly at a distance. Then you're going to take it up under the second stitch. So with your thumb, keep the red thread down. Okay, and then you're going to bring it back under the first stitch, but over the red thread, and that is all there is to it. So you're going to take it excuse me, under the second stitch again, then over the first, under the first stitch but over the red, and this is gorgeous. So under the second stitch again, then over under the first stitch, and there you go, and that is your Pekingese stitch. And so what I'm going to do now is to carry on with this idea with the decreasing circles, but I'm now going to move to this one. So just a quick peek at what I've done so far. I've just finished going around here, around this shape there. I've deliberately left that plain, the little piece there, for maybe some sequins or beads or French knots or something else. So just for the time being, I'm leaving that. I'm now going to start with this shape down here, and if I turn this around just a little bit, you'll get to see it better, and I'll make it bigger. Let's move that up. There we go. So the shape that I've chosen to go around is this shape here, this blue shape here that swirls all the way around here. Now these two are so close that they're quite interconnected around about here, so I'm actually going to use that and just do that as one shape and just see how that turns out. Hopefully I'll still have the rings, I'll still get part of the rings at least around here, but I don't see much of a ring happening around this shape, to be honest. But I'm going to start anyway and see what happens. I think I'll start here, and all I'm going to start with is the same stitches that I've used all the way through. There were no new stitches here at all. All the stitches here have been used here before. So I think I'm going to start here with a twisted chain stitch. I'm really into this at the moment, so I'll follow that line all the way around. Now that's first bit down here. I'm on two minds whether to carry it on around here. I don't know if this will be too thick and dark, and might just cut it off too much, might compartmentalise it a bit too much. So I've got one compartment here and one there. Instead of joining them, it might cut the work, actually cut the work in two. So I'm going to have a think about that, but at the moment I'm quite tempted just to stop there and rethink it. So just another teeny tiny update to let you see how far I've got. This hasn't taken very long. I started with this. I couched down the white woolen threads here all the way down to there, following that beautiful curve in the die, and then I've over sewn it with single chain. Now I'm really into this at the moment, so I have to be careful not to overuse it, but it gives such a fabulous result. If I make this a bit wider, larger, you can just see here, it's just such a gorgeous effect at the end. But I varied it. Instead of putting the white down as chain, I've actually laid the white down here as a couching thread. So that's that one. And then I did a blanket stitch around there, followed this beautiful curve all the way around, and then I wove or threaded, because it's not actually weaving, it isn't over and under, it is just under all the legs all the way round here. Where am I on the screen? I'm not there yet. You can see the pink thread there, and it is under all the legs of the blanket stitch. So that's as far as I've got on that curve there. But what I also did, and I'm going to make this smaller now, just to give a bit more dominance, if you like, to the centre bits here, because I think I might have been in danger of losing them into the background. With the blanket stitch that holds them all in place, I've threaded a pink, the same pink that I've used here, the pink wool all the way through the legs, or under the legs I should say, of the buttonhole stitch. Sorry, it's not a buttonhole stitch, it's a blanket stitch. I've been reading about buttonholes, so I've got buttonhole stitch lodged in my head, but I do actually mean blanket stitch. And the same here. So all the centres now have a common link, and it's the pink wool under the legs of the blanket stitch. There you go, said it. And that is as far as I've got. This has been hanging on the back of my chair all night, sort of stretching. I just sprayed it very lightly, and it was just to make it fall a bit flatter actually. So I pinned it onto the back of my chair, and it looks lovely now. What have I done? Right, I've added some fabric here to this shape. It was looking a bit unbalanced around about here, and I suddenly realised it's because this shape here didn't have fabric there, and I think the fabric there finishes it off. I have done the shape here. I've introduced just a tiny touch of red here, and some around there and up here. Now at the moment these shapes, I think the ones that you're looking at are finished, but I now need to move on down here a little way to this shape here, and then I have this shape here, and this is a very big shape, so I might In fact, I think I will break this shape up, maybe take it up there around the purple, and put some fabric here or around here just to break all that up. Now I've also put some more blanket stitching, and once again I've used it as couching. I'm not sure if you saw this part last time, I can't really remember, but I have added other bits of blanket stitch, and as I've just said, I've used it as couching. Now I'm not sure I've introduced anything else. I've introduced some lime green here as well, just to give it a little bit of a lift. I've also sorted out some fabric for these shapes here, just this sort of fingertip shapes for there, and the same here, and I might put some applique over some of the shapes, but not all of them. I really don't want them looking like flowers, but I have a feeling they could go that way. I like the decreasing circles, and it's still looking, I think it's still looking like the postcard. But anyway, I'm going to crack on and see what happens. But looking at the screen, I really do think I need to think about applique around here. Well, today is the hottest day on recorded history for the UK. It's about 35 degrees the last time I looked. I've got two enormous standalone fans in this tiny room, and it is still sweltering. So I apologise now for any traffic noises that you can hear from outside, but I have every single window fully open in this flat. It's not making much difference actually, because the breeze that's coming in is hot. We're just not used to this weather here. The heat is something else. We are just not used to it. The rain, yes, we can cope with that. Oh, but this is awful. It really is. I can't tell you how I look sitting here doing this, or what I'm not wearing. Now there's a thought to put you off your dinner. But anyway, back to this. And I'm so hot, it's hard to speak. So I'm going to very, very quickly go through this. I have put blanket stitch around these edges here, and then I've put some wool underneath, once again to give the idea of couching. I followed the line along here, and I've used blanket stitch, chain stitch and couching art and twisted chain here. I haven't introduced any more stitches. I've done exactly the same here as I did there. I've introduced a new colour though. I've introduced orange just on the three, I don't know what to call them, splashes. We call them splashes or circles, just on the three here. And oh gosh, there's some noise out there. Sorry. And here I've done the same. And along here I've just followed the line. I think the biggest change might be to this part here. I did break that bigger, or that larger shape up into two. I'm leaving that part, but on the second part I added a little bit more of this net that I was using for some of the centres, and then I've done a blanket stitch and 2 rows of wool around there. So this is as far as I've got, and as I've just said, the stitching, the surface stitchery as such, is finished. So now I'm going to start the embellishing. I've gone back to this one that I did a long time ago. I love this bit. This is bullion stitch with French knots, and it's in wool. French knots again around here. So all I've used to get this effect are 2 stitches, French knots and bullion. I've got here clusters of French knots. All this area here, this dark area, French knots, and then scattered there, some scattered ones there. So I'm going to do this around some of these. I think I'll start with this one just to see how it works out. So that's the first one done. You can see here the bullion stitches and the French knots all the way around here. I've used blue and purple for the bullion, and for this French knots I've used a light pink, a dark pink, and just a couple of brown. You can actually count the brown, there's so few of them. There's actually 5, 6. So that is the first one. Now I'm just going to show you how to do a French knot and a bullion stitch. But the French knot we've done many times before, and it's in our book here, our stitches book, if I can get that in. It's in both of these books. Let's see if I can just turn to it. Oh, must be here somewhere. There it is. So there's our French knots clustered together. So this is the stitch I'm about to do now. There's another one there with the inspiration on the same page. Right, so I'm just going to show you how to do the French knot. We've done it before, but for some of you it might be new. So nice knot in the back of your thread. Bring the needle through. Oh, I'm a bit caught up there. Bring the needle through to the front. Then you're going to hold that down, the thread down, let the needle do the work, and twist. I'll make this a tiny bit bigger for you. Lovely. Then you're going to just twist that round, so the needle has now changed direction, and you're going to take it back, not into the same hole, but next to it. If you take it into the same hole, there's a chance that you just might pull it right the way through. And there's your French knot. See how easy that is. So round you go again. Round and in. And your second French knot. You just need to practice. So that is the correct way. This is the cheats way that looks exactly the same. So the cheats way I'm going to show you. Because we always have a lot of stitches to do. We don't often have the luxury of actually learning an intricate stitch. So here goes. In from the back, decide on how long you want your bullion. So I'm going to have my bullion that length. So in to the back, and then up you go again and come out at the side like this. And now all you're going to do is wrap your thread over and over. So you're going over and under. You don't pierce the fabric now at any time while you're wrapping the thread. Okay? And you'll do that right to the end until you've covered that thread all the way to the end. And then you're going to the back and finish off. Now this is a lot easier to do with wool. If you're going to use a fine thread, you might need to use it double or even triple. And there you go, and that is your bullion. And then you take it through to the back and just finish it off. Well, the bullion and the French knots have been completed, and if you look around here and here and here, they're just the 3 that I said I was going to do. They're completed and they're finished. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see them in more detail. There we go. I'll focus in on the centre one. So we have bullion stitches and a collection of French knots, and the same on the other 2 as well. I've also scattered French knots. Let me see if I can pick it up from here. There, I've added a few French knots there just to fill in a shape, and some along, is it going to pick up? Yeah, and some along here as well. But then I decided to stop because I think now it is finished, and if I add any more stitchery to it, I think I might lose something instead of gain. There, that's it now. You can see it all there. That's it. Now what I am going to add, just to finish it, are some beads or some sequins, just for a little bit of added interest, not to flood it with sparkly stuff, because close up this fabric here is shiny, that is shining, and also this has a little sparkle to it. I've also got this, once again I'd have to pick the sequins off one by one. These are very small, and I could just scatter these in odd places. I've also got the glass beads, the small glass beads, but I'm not sure about those. So I think now I'm just going to hang it up, have a coffee, and then finish it off completely with just a couple of sequins dotted here and there. Sequins are now in, but I don't really think they're making much impact. I've only put them in 3 places, round here, around there, and some there. I'll hold this up. I mean, the light does catch them when I've held it towards the window, so I think, well, maybe they will make a little bit of an impact after all, but I don't think there was any point in putting any more. Now at this point the work's finished, there's nothing else to do on the surface, so this point you could do whatever you like with it. I'm going to turn it into a journal cover. Now I'm going to take the other piece of tie-dye that I did, and I'm going to sew it around just 3 edges. I'm going to start here, right edge to edge, so right sides to right side. I'm going to pin it starting from there, and I'm going to go all the way around here, there. Now to make sure I don't sew across the gap, I put my pins that way, so I know as soon as the pins go this way, then I have to stop. So this is what I should go and do now. I've sewn all the way round, and I'm just going to trim the corners here. I'm going to clip the edges, but not too close to the stitching, otherwise you could break the stitching. I've already trimmed around the whole piece, so now it only leaves to pull it through. This is always a bit of a nerve-wracking experience, because at this stage I've no idea what it's going to look like. So just pull that through. Well, so far so good. Push out the corners. Lovely. So that the corners have been pushed out. Now, I recently had a TV dinner. A friend and I had these TV dinners, and pie and mash, as you can see. But look at these, they're plastic, some sort of plastic. I don't know whether they're biodegradable, it doesn't say, but I'm going to reuse them, recycle it anyway. I've already trimmed the edges from around it to get the size that I want. Because this is plastic and it's quite flexible, I'm going to try and get it through there. Now, there's a lot. Ah, lovely. And there it is inside. Now it already has the spine. Where is the spine? Yes, this already has a spine, so it will fold there. I need to flatten it for a little while, but before I do that, I'm now going to sew up this by tucking the seam allowance in and then over sewing it. And we've done this before. A tiny little over sew stitch just across the gap, so it runs even to the seams. Okay, so I'm going to over sew that, and so this is what it looks like finished. I haven't put a closure on here or put any danglies around here because I'm not totally sure whether I will be using this as a journal cover, so I'm not going to do all that. That's for you to do if that's what you want to do. But I've put a book inside, a sketchbook, just so you get the idea of how it would look as a journal cover. I think the spine looks really nice, and there we go. So if you wanted to use this as a journal cover, you would just do it exactly the same as you always connect your signatures to the spine. Or if you didn't want to go through there, you could do it Embroidery style and just capture some of these signatures, some of the pages with elastic or thread. So that is what it looks like as a journal, or how it would look like. That book's not sitting in there properly. So there you go, all done, finished. And I'll just lay it out this way. So that is the inside. I think the heat's affecting this camera. It's jumping a little bit, so I hope it's feeling. I hope it's filming okay. Apologies if it isn't. Yeah, there's a delay, a little delay on this. So that is obviously the inside, and you could always put a pocket along there if you're going to use it as a journal. And that is the outside. And I just love this. I really do. I'm very tempted actually to leave it like this, not use mine as a journal cover, and have it mounted on fabric as some sort of picture. Yeah, I really like this and I love doing it, so please have a go at doing it. So we went from David Hockney's picture, The Arrival of Spring, Normandy 2020, number 346. So we went from this to this, and I took reference or inspiration from past work that I did. So there we are. I won't put up the other piece of work that I did with the circles because it's too big. It's on the floor. I'm looking at it now, and it's very similar to this anyway. So there we are. If you enjoyed it, could you please like it, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll be with you soon with something else. Keep the challenges coming in because I have got about 3 to catch up with. So if you have got a challenge, make it easy, an easy one. Please send it on to me. You can get my address via my Allsewnup email. I'll just pop that in the post to you. So anyway, wherever you are, keep safe. Enjoy the weather or not, wherever you are, and I'll catch up with you on Facebook shortly. And I'd like to say I'm going off to enjoy the heat, but at 42 degrees I don't think I am. I'm staying in. Okay then, I will see you all later. Take care. Bye.